Today I'm working on the Chevy Sonic. We're going to be installing the intercooler piping and the intercooler diverter from DDMWorks. We'll start by taking the bumper off. You have a couple screws, they're T20 screws in here, 1, 2, and 3. Then you have one that's straight up in there. You have 2 underneath the bumper and a couple clips and bolts on top of the bumper. Alright, so my wife took the bumper off. I got frustrated with it. So she'll tell you how many bolts and screws are on it.
So you have 3 Torx screws here, and then there's going to be 1 up this way. There's going to be 8 along the underneath of the lip, and then 1 on the other side of the lip towards the front of the bumper. You'll have 2 13mm bolts up here and a push clip. Once those will come out, you can take this out, which will allow you to take out the 2 Phillips head screws out of here. Then you'll come up to the top. You will have 10 Phillips head screws along the front, 4 10mm bolts, and 6 push clips. Once you remove those, you'll be able to pop the interlocking clips off of the side to pull off the bumper. It's easier to do with 2 people because one person can hold the bumper while the other person removes the fog lights clips and then the air temp clip. Once that's done, you can take the whole bumper off and then start moving towards taking the pipes off. Alright, so now the next step is going to be to remove this tube from the intercooler and where it meets the turbo. Up here there will be a metal ring that wraps around completely with a plastic clip over it. First you're going to remove the plastic clip with a flathead screwdriver. It'll just pop off and pop off. Once you get that off, this section will be in this hole and the bottom one will be in here. There's also a notch in the back where the pipe is. So you'll pop these 2 out. Now the instructions say to twist the tube 90 degrees so that this will pop off in the back. Unfortunately with mine I can't. I have a plastic notch here that won't allow me to twist the tube. But I did see that if I went from underneath the car, right about here, I could use a flathead screwdriver to pop this, turn it, and take it off. Once that's off, you'll just slide the pipe out, and then we'll go to the top of the car. Alright, so once you're up here, there's going to be a clamp with a bolt attached. So what you're going to do is use a 7mm ratchet and loosen that so that it loosens the clamp so you can go from underneath and pull the pipe out. Once the pipe's disconnected from the turbo, you'll then pull the entire pipe out the passenger side of the car and it'll be fully disconnected. Alright, so I went underneath the car, pulled down on the hose to disconnect it from the turbo. Now that it's disconnected, I can just pull it out. You'll lift up on a slight angle and the piping is out. Alright, so now that we have the pipe out, we're going to remove, there's going to be a clamp here and a clamp here to remove the old piping to put on the new one. So the clamp's going to look like this. It'll be hooked on here. I don't know if there's an easier way to remove it, but what I did was I used a flathead screwdriver to pry up on the edge, while my husband used pliers to squeeze here and here together to unhook it from this latch. While he squeezed, I lifted up on it to release it, and it came right off. Alright, so now that we have the old piping removed, we're going to reuse this 90 with the new piping. We're going to use some silicone spray and a rag. Spray a little bit on your rag. Wipe where the new pipe is going to be attached on both ends so that it goes on a little easier. Set that aside. The new piping comes with a whole bunch of clamps, so what we're going to do is figure out which clamps go to the new piping. There is a diagram on the directions that it comes with numbers. So there will be a 32, a 28, a 20, and I believe one more. So for the bigger piping, we're going to use a 32 to attach on this end and a 28 to attach on the smaller end. On the smaller tube, we're going to use a 20 on the small end and a 28 on the big end. So next what we're going to do is attach it to the 90, and once that's attached we'll come back and show you more. Alright, so now that the new tubing is attached to the 90, what I ended up doing was I used some silicone spray, wiped on the inside of the rubber hosing as well as the outside of the aluminum 90 to get the hosing on a little easier. The clamps that I discussed a little earlier were the 32 and the 28 for the U-shaped tubing. The 32 will go on the side that attaches to the intercooler, and the 28 will attach to the 90. On the smaller tubing, the 28 will attach again to the 90, and the 20 will attach to the turbo. The directions that came with my tubing tell you which hose clamps go to which tubing and where each tubing gets attached to on the vehicle. Now with the stock intercooler, there will be a notch right here that you're going to have to smooth out in order to fit the new tubing onto the intercooler. So that's what we're going to do next. Once we're done smoothing this out, we're going to reattach all the tubing back to the car on the passenger side. We'll come back, show you how everything looks, and then we'll move over to the driver's side. Alright, so now that the pipe is fully installed on the passenger side, what we did not realize before, but once we put it back on we did, is you will need 2 of the 32 clamps for where it attaches to the intercooler. We fed it in the same way that we took it out, on a slight angle, pushed it up, attached the underneath side to the turbo, tighten that clamp, which is right down here. Once that was attached, we attached the front to the intercooler, and the passenger side is now complete. So now we're going to move to the driver's side and go from there. Alright, so we removed the driver's side tubing. The tubing that was connected to the intercooler comes off exactly the same way that the passenger side did. You take the plastic clip off, unclip the metal. It says to twist the tubing 90 degrees, but again, you can't because there is a cutout in the intercooler that won't allow you to spin the tube. So again, I just used a flathead screwdriver, popped it off the back, and pulled it off the intercooler. There are going to be 2 bolts that attach this bracket to the body of the vehicle. You're going to go down through the top of the car, remove these 2 bolts, unhook the sensor, and loosen the clamp that attaches the tubing to the throttle body. Once everything is disconnected, you then maneuver the tubing out of the side of the vehicle the same way you did the passenger side, and then start removing the clamps from the tubing, because you will be reusing this center plastic piece. So we will remove the tubing, attach the new one, and come back. Alright, now that we have the new hoses attached, I'm just going to go over what clamps go where. So you will need 2 32 clamps, same as the other side, that attach to the intercooler. Both clamps that attach to the plastic piece will be both 28s, and then you'll need another 32 up at the top to attach to the throttle body. Once you have everything attached, you'll feed the new tubing back through the side of the car up into the throttle body, attach it in both the throttle body and the intercooler, tighten on the clamps, and the tubing is completed. Alrighty, so we installed the new piping. You're going to have 3 clamps in total. There's going to be 2 that attach to the intercooler. You're going to tighten these. It's going to be 1 and 2. And then you're going to have 1 up top. When you tighten these 2, you're going to want to run your hand along the tubing to make sure that it's not twisted. Ours was slightly twisted, so we just loosened the clamp back here a little, untwisted it, tightened it back up, and we were good to go. There's also going to be the 2 bolts that you get from the top down. It's going to be a little hard to see in the video, but you're going to tighten the 2 bolts to the bracket down, and then tighten the clamp up to the throttle body which is going to be located right up here. Once that's all tightened and everything is connected, you're good to go with the clamps, and all that install is done. Also, what we did was we ran the car, revved it a little bit while one of us checked all of the connections to make sure that there was no air coming out of the connections to make sure everything was nice and tight. After that was completed, we moved on to installing the air diverter to the intercooler. This was pretty simple, so we didn't do a before video, but you're gonna drill 2 holes in where the bracket meets. Drill those, install the bolts that it comes with. There's gonna be two clips that go right up top, and it's gonna be, that's pretty much all you gotta do. All you wanna make sure is that there is a rubber seal that you wanna make sure isn't blocking any of the intercooler. So as long as you have that folded up where it's supposed to be, install your clamps and bolts, and you're good to go. Now next we're just gonna install the bumper, and everything will be finished. All right, now that you have everything back together and your bumper put back on, take it for a test drive, make sure everything runs good, doesn't sound funny, and you're good to go. Like and subscribe for more videos, and thanks for watching.